Welcome along to the Hit Podcast, where we talk about matters football. It's another week. It's another time for us to talk matters of football. And today we do have a very special show. My name is Elijah Uko, and I'm flanked by my co-host, David Kwalimo. Kwalimo, how are you doing?
Very fine.
Great to see you.
Yes.
This week, we have another guest, our second guest on the show.
Yep.
And he is the CEO of one of Kenya's FKF Premier League clubs. He goes by the name Patrick Korir, and
a former journalist as well.
Former journalist.
Or still a journalist, actually.
He will be telling us whether he's still a journalist.
Yeah.
Korir, welcome to the Hit Podcast.
Thank you, Elijah.
Are you still a journalist?
It's like an ambassador. Once one, it never goes away.
I like that.
Thank you very much. Right, today we'll be talking about match fixing. It has been a thorn in the flesh in Kenyan football for quite some time. Although in recent time, it has really been quite profound.
Yes. And to worrying levels, actually. If we start from the top, of course, match fixing is trying to predetermine the result of a match before it is played, or a sequence in which the match will be played. Normally for not so honest reasons. So it's a vice that threatens to destroy the game, in my opinion, because there's a lot of it happening, and as a result there's a lot of trust that is being lost in Kenyan football by stakeholders, important stakeholders like the corporate sponsors, the government. As a result, of course, Patrick, of course, will be speaking more about that. So this just puts the lives and livelihoods of about 1,000 people at stake, most of them who are youth who depend on the game for a living. And that is more or less the reason why we really need to arrest this vice.
And this is not the first time we're talking about match fixing, actually. But there's a reason why we're talking about it today. And that is why we do have the CEO of Nairobi City Stars here in the studio, and it regards a certain case where 3 suspects were released after pleading guilty to match fixing.
I think Patrick has to open it up for us. Patrick, what really happened? Because the last time I checked, these 3 gentlemen had pleaded not guilty. What happened thereafter?
This is what happened. Monday, I'd been asked to go and testify as a witness. I and my colleague Samson Otieno, and the person who organized for us to have that expose, remember some times back?
Yes.
Festo Mukoto.
Yes.
So we're called in and told Monday we're going to testify.
Yes.
And then on the second day, the other 3 people, I guess the suspects,
Yes.
would also appear in court. So we get there, we're looking for the courtroom, we identify court 7. We check what time was supposed to have been there. When we told 9, it is now 9
AM.
10 a.m. So we traced the case file, and we're told maybe you need to call the person who asked you to come. And so I call him, and he tells me, "Oh, you're in court." It's like, okay, you are not to come, but anyway, since you're there, let me just come. So he shows up and he says, "But then your case was closed a week ago."
Okay.
And I'm in shock. And I'm like,
Your
week
case
ago.
closed
yes, case closed.
without your information.
Case closed, file closed. And I'm like, how? How did that happen? And so he explains. And he says that when they're presented in court, sometimes in March, the 3 gentlemen, they plead not guilty. But then on the 24th of April, their lawyer called the court and says they want to have a change of plea. So the change of plea was from not guilty to guilty. And he says he was asked to write an official letter, which he did, and he took it to court the next day on the 25th. And it was accepted. So the plea was changed from not guilty to guilty. And according to the penal code, because one of the counts was conspiracy to commit a felony, I think as per penal code 393, and the other one was cheating under penal code 315. So each of the counts had the sentence was 1.5 years
in jail,
and the fine years in jail, and the fine was 100,000 for each.
Yes.
So we're talking about 2 counts. So you multiply that by 2. So 3 years and 200,000.
Yes.
So of course they chose the easier way, the easier route out. So it was 200,000. That's on the 25th. 3 days later on 28th, 200,000 was paid for each of the 3. And guess what? Case closed, file closed. So I asked, okay, so how comes they don't have this info? And the guy says, I was so busy. We're handling so many cases. I kind of forgot to call you and inform you.
Who is this guy in the case? A prosecutor, a court employee?
This is a DC. This is a guy from the DCI office.
Okay, a policeman.
Yeah, a policeman.
Yeah.
So he says, sorry, pole sana. Nilisahau tu kukuambia nilikuwa busy. So I'm like, okay. So I listened to the guy, and Victor, from the Nation was nearby. So I tell Victor, come by. I think you want to listen to this story.
Yes.
So I tell the guy, fine, I'll go back to the office. However, before I came here, I made sure that I called the media houses that covered this story from the very beginning.
Yes.
And some of them are here. Victor is here. And there'll be more coming in. Now, what you need to handle now is that this has been the public domain.
Yes.
It's a big story.
True.
Because it affects not only football, but our sport. Because as I'm informed, match fixing is even in basketball, it's in handball, it's in other sports.
It's in basketball and handball.
Yes.
In Kenya, that is.
In Kenya, that is.
Okay.
And by this is a story I just got. Just say you talk to someone, it's like, by the way, hata juzi nimeenda handball game ingine hapo.
Things don't add up.
Kuna jamaa kachota hapo nini ndio. Sijui, I don't know how they play the game.
Yeah.
Because I really don't know. It's like, so watu walichotewa ndio mtu fulani ashinde hiyo game. I'm like, ala, it's also in handball.
Oh my God.
That was just off, just normal informal conversation. Yeah. Anyway, so back to our story. So I told the guy, you have to deal with the media. So I'm like, is it okay if I give out your number when I'm called? And the guy says, yeah, you go ahead. You give them my number, I'll explain. So I told him, expect a lot of calls because it looks very casual how this case and the file have been closed. Yet it's a very big story and people are expecting so much out of it because there was an expose. Instead of my players sleeping, they were somewhere.
Yeah. We'll get back to that part. Allow me to cut you short a bit because I want to get two things out of the way. The first thing is these three gentlemen basically have accepted before court that they attempted to fix a Kenyan Premier League game.
Yes, because that was where the change of plea is, from not guilty to guilty.
So they say they wanted to fix the game between City Stars and Sofapaka, it was?
Yes.
And then the charges were two. The punishment is two. So it's either or. The fine, or you fail to pay the fine, you go to jail.
Exactly.
So they opted to pay the fine.
They paid the fine.
Now, the issue is that all these plea changing and the judgment, you are kept in the dark all through as one of the principles of the case.
Totally. I only learned on that Monday morning.
And unfortunately or interestingly, the Kenyan way, the case is completed in a record 3 weeks. Because by the time the expose, because we're going to get to the expose in detail because we want to understand how this works. By the time the guys appear before court and say we are not guilty, because we live here, we know cases take 3, 4, 5, 6 years to complete. But
exactly.
in your case, between March and the start of May, everything is done.
It's done.
Is
done, dusted.
Is all this normal to you as one of the complainants, as they are aggrieved, the whole of the way this process has been done up until this point? What's your comment on it?
Okay, I'd say it was a surprise to me. Of course, I expected it to drag on for a bit longer. But then the guy who gave me the brief told me something and kind of understood him. He said, this case, we all need to go back to Parliament, including us, the DCI. And he reminded me the day we went to record a statement with the DCI. Remember when the expose happened, we were taken to Kasarani Stadium Police Station.
Yes.
And we recorded statements. That was on Friday night. On Sunday, we were called by the DCI. And when we went to the main Kasarani Police Station, it was the DCI and Interpol. And the first thing they wanted to understand, which I think we'll be getting to, is what is the difference between match fixing and betting? And it took us so long to separate the two. The moment we got past that, now we had to go to the boss's office. And he gets the laws of Kenya, the penal code. And they are sieving through one after the other.
trying to look for the mistakes.
They're trying to look and they're like hapa hujua hakuna kitu, lakini hii nikiwasikiza ni kama they were trying to cheat, unaona. So they go to penal code, I think 315, and then they're like conspiracy to commit a felony. Yeah, we can also use that. Alafu tuongeze match fixing hapa kwa hiyo sentence, you see. So they're trying to look for something as close as possible,
as per the Kenyan law.
as per the Kenyan law.
Yes.
But they all admitted and said, you know, we have so much interest in this case because we have never handled such a case. It's never happened. So it's all new to us. We're all learning. We're understanding what match fixing is. And you're trying to get to the bottom of it. Lakini tukiangalia penal code, this is the only thing we can use. So this guy says, anyway, this case is closed. However, I think even us as the DCI, we also need to put pressure on Parliament to enact a specific and a particular law so that next time when there's such a case, we'll just go straight to it, the guys go to court, and we have something that we can use against them to throw them behind bars. I liked when he said that because he said this is a very good case study. Hata ni vizuri sana mulishika watu. Yeah, because it's a learning curve for all of us.
Yeah, we learn every day.
And he even said, even Interpol tried to digest it and they looked and they said, you know what, this one is going to take us a while because we are not sure how to deal with this one. But however, since it's here, let's all learn from it. And I hope something good will come out of that.
Okay. Yeah. Patrick, you have been the biggest noisemaker on match fixing in Kenyan football in the last 6 months.
Yes.
You've complained and we've heard you, we've seen you. Maybe before I generalize it, let's talk about the expose. You decided to catch these people.
Yes.
And you caught them and they've gone to court and they have accepted. How did you catch them?
It's a story, I don't know where to start. But anyway, let me try and brief it up.
Yes, please.
So it's a Friday.
Yes.
And we have a game on Saturday against Sofapaka.
Which Friday?
Can I remember the date?
March?
It's March of 2023, somewhere in
No, I think it was in February.
In Feb, sorry.
It was the end of February.
Yeah.
Just check Sofapaka. It was the first game of the second leg.
Okay.
All right.
So I've been up and about. I'm back in the office at about 3. At about 3:30. Festo calls me and tells me, CEO, kuna kitu nataka tuongelelea. So I'm like, okay, you go ahead.
Now, before we proceed,
Yeah.
Festo. Let's make guys understand who Festo, is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Festo is a former City Stars player. Then, but I think even before he came to City Stars, he had been scouted and he was in Aspire. He was in the Aspire in Senegal.
Okay, Aspire Academy.
So he was one of the few guys, him and Timona Wanyonyi and Khalid Juman.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. So those 3 had been scouted through the Aspire program.
Yes.
Festo was that good?
Yeah, Festo was that
Yes,
good.
he's
My
He's a good
goodness.
It was
player.
that good. Hey,
He's a good-
Festo.
He's a good player.
Festo is out of this world.
Yeah.
So he was in City Stars, I think, in 2016 when I look at my records. And then he went to Homeboys. And then there was a case that came up that he was suspected for match fixing at Homeboys.
Yes.
And he was one of 4 players.
Banned
There
for
was
4
him,
years.
there was, I think, George Mandela, there was Festo Okiring, and the coach then, Paul Nkata. So I think the coach was cleared.
Yes.
But then Mandela was banned for life.
The
And
Ugandan.
then Okiring and Festo were suspended for 4 years
By FIFA.
by FIFA.
Yes.
So after his suspension, Festo reaches out and tells me, CEO, ujue nilikuwa City Stars, na naona vile mna struggle, hii second leg naweza wasaidia. So that's how the conversation begins. And I tell him honestly, Festo, I can not sign a player who has not been playing. Second leg calls
Who's
for
not
a
played
lot.
for 4 years.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And second leg calls for a lot. If you're bringing a player in the second leg, and especially if you're struggling, must be a first 11 in a team,
Yes.
and I come and plug him into my first 11.
Yeah.
So I'm like, your discussion yako, maybe pre-season, next season, we can discuss. So when he calls me, it was a missed call first. So I thought he was revisiting because he's aggressive.
Yeah.
He wants to play football. He knows he was that good. I mean, he was in Senegal, Aspire.
Okay.
And he didn't
He's
quite...
finished his suspension with FIFA.
He's finished his
Okay,
suspension.
okay.
It's done and dusted, yeah.
Okay.
He's a free bird now.
Okay.
And so that's how it began. So I saw a missed call. Then a few minutes later, he calls again. And he tells me, kuna kitu nataka to discuss. But I'd given a brief to my president, James Ituma. Remember that Festo is an integrity ambassador at KEFWA.
Okay.
So he was calling in his capacity as the integrity officer at KEFWA.
Okay.
But
I'll cut you short again
yes.
because I normally like to follow this conversation. Between the time he calls you to ask for a job as a footballer at City Stars and between the time he calls again with this expose, how long is that?
It's probably 3 weeks, a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
It's some time. Some time has gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, so he tells me, has my president called you to give you a brief? I'm like, no. So he was really surprised. So he's like, okay, I'll call you back. So I think he calls his president. And then he calls me back again to ask me, amepiga? I'm like, bado nangojea. And then after not too long, Situma calls. This is just around 4 o'clock now. I think it was 4:12. So he gives me the brief. And he tells me that for Festo to be busted, some guys had approached him. And those same guys 4 years later have reached out to him. And they've told him, we have worked with a number of clubs. However, we've never worked with City Stars. Do you think
a number of clubs in Kenyan football?
In Kenyan football.
Okay.
So they asked him, do you have any connections? So now Festo was calling more or less to get permission from me to link me up to them. But then he tells me, these guys don't stay in a country for long. Now that they're here and they've reached out and I've told them I have the CEO's number, but let me talk to him first and see if his game. Now Festo now says, you know, I've suffered for
My
4
talent,
years.
yeah.
My family has suffered. I've suffered as a player. And everywhere I go, people look at me as a match fixer. And I need to clear my name.
True.
And he tells me, CEO, kama kuna siku nataka unisaidie, ni leo. So I'm like, okay. So Festo, so what do you want me to do? He's like, fanya hivi CEO. Hawa tu, kesho, wanaweza toka waende nchi ingine. So leo, kwa vile wako hapa, tupige mpango, tuweke pahali, tutafute polisi, tuwashike. Tutafute media, ndio waonekane, ndio kila mtu ajue ni kina nani. So I listened to him and I'm thinking, you know, I've been out the whole day. I have so much to catch up on. But at City Stars, I work with my colleague Samson.
Yes.
I've mentioned him.
Yes.
He's a team coordinator. And for some reason, it's a Friday. Sam happens to be in their office. Because the moment I hang up, I look and I see Sam. And I tell Sam, there's something we need to discuss. So I take him through. And then he listens to me, tells me, you know what? I think we should play a part. I think we also need as a club to make a statement that this vice has been part of us for a while. Not part of us as City Stars, but Kenyan football.
Yeah.
It's in the league. My boss comes, he watches a game, and he just tells you this game has been fixed. And the first thing he'll ask you is that, Sam, why am I putting money in this game? Why didn't that referee give a red card? Because it was a clear red card. How much money has he been paid? So you see, so we looked at it differently in terms of what we as City Stars could lose if we don't play a part in killing the vice.
Yes.
So we discuss, and he tells me, you know what? I was going home, but call Festo. Find out what he wants exactly. Then you see what we can do. So I call Festo, and I put him on speakerphone. So he says, what I want you to do is that these guys have asked for, they'd like to meet 7 players, plus your team manager, so that they can plan on tomorrow's game. They will tell you exactly what they want. So if you can get the 7 players, I'll call them and tell them City Stars have talked to the CEO and the team manager, and they're ready to play ball. That's where it all began. So many phone calls later. So I tell Sam, 7 players are too many. And tomorrow we have a game. You call 3. So he calls 3. And they meet in town. And they meet Festo. He was staying in Ruiru, so he came by, they met. So he calls the guys and says, I am here with the TM of City Stars and 3 players. And they're like, how many? 3. We said 7. And they're like, for this plan to work, they must be 7. And they're very specific. And they said, so they told Festo, the moment you have 7, call us back. And then we'll tell you where we can meet. And they're very specific. Goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and a striker. They said they have to be in that order in terms of positions, plus a team manager. So Sam calls me and tells me, I'm not sure this can work, because we are not talking, it's about 6:30. You know, by the time you get players.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the strict instructions from the coach: go home and sleep. Go watch telly, don't move, eat well, rest. Tomorrow we have a game. So Sam calls me and tells me, so what do we do? I'm like, since we've already started, you call the other 4 guys. So in fact, Sam even adds one more. He calls 5. And at that point, he had 2 defenders and a midfielder. So he adds a midfielder come defender, another defender, calls our starting keeper, calls a striker, and calls an extra midfielder. So they all show up. So now it's 6:30 going to 7, towards 7:30. At that same time, Elijah, remember I called you.
Yes, you called me.
I called you and told you, you know what?
Yeah.
There's a story coming up. Yeah.
I was home at that time. I couldn't
Yeah,
make
he
it
was
to
off.
town.
He referred me. There was a bit of a challenge in-house, getting people at short notice. But however, I still call around. And we got someone ready with cameras.
Did you inform the police prior?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
At that point, I didn't.
Okay.
Because we're not even sure. I didn't want to call. I don't even have a location.
Yes.
There's
Oh,
nothing.
yeah.
There's nothing.
I get you.
You remember, it's developing.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people later took offense that we had a big story and I didn't call them. And I'm like, people, if you know how it all started,
Yes.
you'd understand why I didn't call you. Yeah.
So fast forward,
it wasn't like a luncheon that tomorrow let's meet for lunch.
Yeah, you saw that you
Suddenly,
applied
release.
to. Yeah.
It wasn't that way. Yeah.
Fast forward, Patrick, inside the room now, you've managed to get the players, you've managed to meet these guys in a room. Probably just maybe highlight how you got to the room.
Yeah, so well in town going now to, because now they said come to Roysambu.
They hosted you.
So Samson is mic'd.
Okay.
He's mic'd
By journalists.
by a journalist.
Okay.
He's mic'd. And so they go to Roysambu and the journalist is tracking them. And they go into a room, go into a building. So they get into a building. Finally, they locate a room and they all sit in the room. It's
Who is hosting the other?
It's the
Those guys.
The guys are
it's a bookies.
Okay.
It's a bookies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bookies. So now they're all in a room. So the guy tells me it's Lumumba Drive, and that's all I needed. Now I have a location, so now I can engage the police. But then we are talking close to, it's about 9:30 going to 10. Yes, it took a while. So who do I call? CEO, police, Chris Oguso. And I tell him, as we speak, my players are in a room with match fixers. And he's like, what? So I explained to him. He's like, give me 2 minutes. So he calls his TM, Maelo Wanjala. And Maelo calls me and tells me, okay, Lumumba Drive, confirmed, eh? I told him, yes. He's like, give me 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, he calls me and tells me, my men on the ground. So anytime I'll call you to tell you it's a done deal. So the idea was go in, because Chris asked me, so what do you want? I'm like, I need guys to go into the room to fish these guys out so that the camera guy can get the photos and capture them on camera. That's all that I need. So that happened at 10:33. I was at home. So when I was told it's done, let's meet at Kasarani Stadium, police station. So I left home and I went there.
Okay, let me hold you back.
That's what happened, yeah.
Okay, let me hold you back in the room. So, how did the discussions go in before they were busted? As in, what do the match fixers want of your players and your team, and what were they offering?
And I'm guessing the audio was recorded.
It was recorded.
Yes. Okay.
It was recorded.
Yeah.
Because now, remember, Sam is mic'd.
Yes.
He's in the room.
Yes.
And so he's asking the hard questions. Okay, so what do you want? So these guys, what they wanted was we concede in the first 10 minutes against Sofapaka. And then we concede 2 more goals in the last 10 minutes.
So you wanted City Stars to lose the game?
3-0.
To Sofapaka.
To Sofapaka.
What is in it for City Stars?
$14,000.
That's about 1.8 million Kenyan shillings?
With the normal, with the current exchange rate, about 1.8.
Okay. Now, in the field of play, players don't have watches.
Yes.
How would they know it's the first 10 minutes, it's the final 15 minutes, so that they should concede?
Now that's how the TM comes in.
Okay.
And the TM is assumed to be on the bench,
Mm-hmm.
and he has his phone,
Mm-hmm.
and he's communicating, he's getting messages.
Yes.
So he
From
has very
these match
clear
fixers.
instructions. In fact, at that point is when they realize, oh, and where's the coach? So we're told, but you didn't ask us to bring the coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then Sam quickly steps in and says, the moment you see me, you see the coach.
Okay.
Because the TM is always with the coach.
Yes.
Yeah, so they said the plan is very elaborate. The 7 players, the TM plus the coach.
Mhm.
That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So the coach, and something very interesting, by the way, the 8 players, they checked one by one. They went to our social media pages.
Mm.
You know, they take a photo of the
Mhm,
lineups.
mhm.
This game, this game, this game. So they check. So the keeper, your name. So they go and check.
So they're
They
that
check the
thorough.
photo
Mm.
one by one. They're like, yes, he played the last game. He played the last 5-6 games.
Mm.
Defender, yes, we can confirm like that. So they're like, we want to see this same plays here on the pitch tomorrow. You don't change anyone. These ones inside this room must be in the starting 11 tomorrow. That's how they want it.
Mm-hmm.
So back to your question.
Mm.
So they communicate with the TM
Mm-hmm. Via mobile phone.
via mobile phone.
Mhm.
If it's not via mobile phone, they'll tell the TM where they're seated in,
Okay.
in the stadium.
Oh, they will be in the stadium.
So they'll give them. He'll be given signs.
Okay.
The signs can be various.
Mhm.
The sign could be either someone removes their hat, which now tells you at that point muneza toboka,
Mm-hmm.
or remove a jacket. At that point muneza toboka ingine. You see.
Mm. So
that's how it works. So
these
if
people
it's
communicate
hard
to the
communicating,
TM,
yes,
and then the TM communicates to the
yeah,
players that have been
Yes.
selected
Ne-
for that assignment.
exactly. So now you may want to ask how. Now remember, David, at some point the ball goes out
Yes.
or a play is down.
Yes.
What happens? The coach will call 2-3 players. You see, it's at that point that the communication is made. That's sasa majamaa. Hii sasa ndio ile time. Yeah.
So,
So
players
yeah.
are basically just supposed to not play to the best of their ability to concede the goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now Sam asked, so what is the striker doing in the plan?
Mm-hmm.
So I told it's very simple. The striker up front, make sure that he doesn't score. That's 1. 2 is that if you've got wingers who are not here and they are not part of the plan, anytime they have the ball, the striker will ask for that ball. Kijana let a ball hapa. Now what does he do? The midfielders in the plan. And these midfielders are playing behind the striker. So what does the striker do?
It's a
He
complicated
turns.
web.
So the striker
Son.
turns and passes the ball to the midfielders. Now remember, there are 3 defenders part of the plan. So what do the midfielders do? You take the ball back to the defenders. So it's like you're returning the ball to start building play.
So you are
Now at that
recycling
point,
play.
because the keeper is also part of the plan, when the ball goes backwards into your defense, anything now happens.
Mm-hmm.
Either the defender gives a short pass or a short back pass. It's
Patrick,
intercepted and they score. And the plan works.
For this $14,000, how much were they willing to pay upfront?
Some was a bit cheeky
Mhm.
and asked for transport,
Mhm.
and they were supposed to cough 30,000.
Kenya shillings.
Yes.
Was that 30,000 for all in all players,
It was
or just
30,000 or
individually?
3,000. No, for all of them, collective.
Oh, collective.
Yeah,
So more or
collective.
less, the
To make it to
14,000.
the ground,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So 14,000 was mainly supposed to be paid after the work has been done.
Once the plan is executed the way they want it.
And to quote you from earlier, when they approached Festo, because we're now discussing the Kenyan, the Ugandan, and the Russian.
Yes.
When they approached Festo, they said they've been working with very many clubs, but they've not managed to work with City Stars.
Yes.
So ideally, hypothetically speaking, this is what goes on in the league. It's just that it was their bad day in office when they encountered City Stars.
Exactly. They name names, by the way, which I'll choose not to.
Yes, of course,
Name
for
in
legal
this show.
reasons.
How many clubs are we talking about?
They mentioned 2.
2.
They said we are starting at $14,000. However, if we get to work together, because we are starting out, if we get to work together like Club A and B,
Mm-hmm.
we will up it to 30,000, eventually get to $40,000.
A game.
$40,000 a
A
game.
game.
And yet these guys were
game,
fined
Elijah.
200,000,
200,000, yeah.
and the bond was 300,000.
Exactly. Now you see where the problem is.
Yes.
Now you see, David, when he said, I make so much noise,
Mhm.
it is because of such reasons.
I said it positively.
Yes. No,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But you see where you're coming
Yes,
from.
yes.
We're coming from, we're talking about $14,000.
Mhm.
There's some clubs that are working at $30,000.
Yes.
Others at $40,000. Now let's put some meaning to that. It's $40,000. How many players do you have? 7 plus a TM 8 plus another guy who connects you to them. 9. Remember, they said coach must be part of the plan. We're talking about 10 people.
Just the mic.
$40,000, David.
Yes.
10 people. Just do your maths.
I get it.
$4,000
Yeah.
for a 90-minute job.
Yeah.
So we are talking about you, David. If you're not shortchanged by the officials of the club, you take home a cool $4,000 in a 90-minute game just to execute the plan. Now, we've been having back-to-back games. You play on a Saturday, you play on a Wednesday.
Yes.
In fact, there's a month of February, we had 7 games. Now, David and Elijah, if you're part of the mix for just 4 of the 7 games in the month,
You're talking about
and you're talking about
$20,000.
$4,000, how much are you talking about?
Close to $20,000 per
Now,
month.
You're a
there's
millionaire.
Yes, there's mainly conversation about, players are not played well. So even let's take about the best paying club in Kenya. And there's a bounty of $4,000 for you to just execute a plan. Who will not be tempted? You see how big this problem is.
Yes.
And that's why we need to stem it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, we are fighting a big python. It's one that is able to swallow us. And why do I say that? I say that because of how they've managed to handle this case in court. The fact that they've managed to handle this case professionally by changing plea, paying for the fines and heading off as if nothing happened, just shows the caliber of people we're talking about. They are able to make a mistake of this magnitude and still walk away with more or less a slap on their wrist. That shows the magnitude of the python we are dealing with in this case in point. So, Patrick, even as now we now after all these shocking details, how is City Stars going to get itself out of this? Because City Stars can remain clean, can decide we're not going to get involved in this. But by what we know and the evidence on the ground and the confessions by these people is that it's not clean out there. So basically, each and every weekend, you'll be rubbing shoulders with people who have probably decided to lose a game or probably decided to draw a game or concede 3 goals. How are you going to survive in that environment as City Stars, or what should be done?
There are many ways, and I'll tell you the City Stars way.
Yes.
Is that, 1, we record our games. Each and every game is recorded. Now, why do we do that? Of course, it's for analysis. 1 is for analysis, 2 is for presenting players, because if you tell someone you're a very good player, you need to produce a video.
Yes.
Thirdly, is we take statistics over and above the videos. So how many passes, complete, incomplete. We can draw that from the videos. But now that we're in the wake of match fixing, what do we also do? We go and watch that video. Very slowly rewind it, watch every player's move. Because, David, there's something that someone will do that will give you a hint if they're part of this or not. There are goals you'll concede and you'll clap for the opposing team for scoring that goal.
Yes.
But there are some that you will concede and you'll ask yourself, it will have more questions than answers. So you can only draw that from the video. So we do that. And I can tell you openly, there are players we've called to the office to ask them, exactly what are you doing here? I need an explanation. Because to me, it's not normal. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
What about now the rest? Because I know City Stars I know for a fact because I've interacted with you, I've interacted with the club. I know you'll not condone this, and I know the ethos of the club. I know what the owner stands for. What about the rest of the league? Because you play a team, and that team, players probably have been compromised. The management has been compromised. It sucks you into it whether you like it or not, because now it's a Kenyan problem. It's not. It might not be a City Stars problem, but it's a Kenyan problem. How do we go about that?
The fight has to be bigger, not only City Stars. And why I'm saying that is that we need to draw in all the stakeholders. And I'll go back to the beginning when I said I was happy that the DCI guy said we all need to go to Parliament and ask them to enact those laws. Let's all fight together. I remember during the expose, because Festo was part of KEFWA, some people felt that, why are we working with KEFWA? And I was like, it's not about that. It's about all stakeholders coming in to fight this vice.
Yes.
So let K4 fight it. Let City Stars fight it. I call upon all other clubs to come forward and fight it. If you suspect a player, do not allow that player in your training. Don't allow that player to be part of your match day squad. Keep the guy out.
Okay.
Go investigate. If you find that the guy is clean, call him back. But do not let that guy mingle with the rest of your players. You see, let the federation be part of the fight. Let the media be part of the fight. That's what I'll say that will help us, so that we are all collectively fighting about it. After the expose, FIFA wrote to the federation, and we went there, and I spent my whole day there writing statements which had to be forwarded to FIFA. FIFPro also got in touch with K4 to ask what it is that we are hearing. Yeah, we also need statements from your end. You see, so the fight becomes bigger. Everyone comes in, every entity comes in with a specific role of trying to fight this vice so that we can clean our game. That is the only way we can do it.
Almost finally from me, before maybe Elijah come in, you've mentioned something very important in that there are challenges in Kenyan football. Probably the pay is not good enough. Players go for months without pay in some certain teams. Let's face the reality. The corporates are shying away. So it may be probably you're trying to, somebody's coming from Russia with $14,000 trying to approach a player who's not earned a salary for 4 or 5 months, 3-4 months, has a family, has needs, has bills to pay. How is it that we can also, even as we try, and I know as well, because there's this argument, even the rich players will still fix, because there's that temptation, and not everybody is morally upright. There's that point where there's the temptation part. From the stakeholders part, what can be done also so that we try and ensure, because the standard of living of a footballer is also very important, because he's a professional footballer. He earns from football. If you're following my conversation, what should be done so that we can bridge this gap, so that when we get somebody or somebody's caught for match fixing, he or she has no excuses to give?
It's a bit hard to explain it. It's really tricky, because what I've realized being in management, coming from journalism to management, is that I look at things a bit differently. Most players want the easier way out. You leave high school, you want to go abroad, then you realize you're not even probably good enough for the Kenyan Premier League. So you have to start from the lower leagues. By the time you rise up, by the time you eventually rise up to the Premier League, you find you're clocking 30. Yet your colleagues, who you thought were more average than you are, have gone abroad.
Have found their way.
And what happens when they land at the airport? In the period they're here for R&R, rest and recuperation, they're driving all the big cars. And they're wanakumwagia vumbi, so to speak. So you see, so you're trying to look for the quickest and easiest way out to try and catch up with this person. So whether that player is well paid in our local league, they will be tempted to take something from somewhere and try and catch up. Unfortunately, that's one of the biggest problems that we have. However, I think it just comes down to your morals. Do you want the clean money? Do you want the dirty money? I think it just comes down to you as an individual, as David. Because I'll tell you, in all industries, there are challenges.
True.
The challenges, and unfortunately in our country, corruption is something very prominent and dominant.
Unfortunately true.
And even you, David, someone will tempt you. So it comes down to you as David. Do I take it? Do I say no? What is your stand? So I think it comes down to your stand. So I think if you decide I'm not part of it, the little that I get is good enough for me, I think that's the direction we need to take as an individual, because we can do all the talking. I'll tell you what, for the first time ever, the federation gave out integrity forms. Every player playing in the league right now, including the lower leagues, has signed an integrity form that says they will not be part of betting. They will report if there's any approach for them to fix matches or manipulate matches. They have a declaration form. Trust me, if you say you do not agree with those conditions, you don't get a player's card. So everyone who's playing now has signed that. But guess what? It is that same lot that are part of it. You see? So it's one thing to try and put people out of it, but it's another thing to actually get them out of it.
But now my question is, now once you managed to go to Lumumba Drive, get all that you needed to get, how was the conversation with the CEO, Jonathan Jackson? With the owner of the club, Jonathan Jackson.
After we left the station, I think that was 2:30 in the morning, I sent him. Okay, it was impossible to send him a message because how was I going to draft it? So I sent him an audio to explain to him what had happened. And there were 2 very long audios.
I can imagine.
And when he woke up in the morning, the only thing he could just say is like, wow, I am shocked at what you just told me. Then I think after he recollected himself, like, okay, I'm also very proud at what you've done.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of you and Sam because of what you've done. And I like that because it means I'm working with people who are very upright.
Yes.
That was the shocking thing. And he's like, okay, just keep me updated. And I think in the interviews that I've done, one of the reasons I've said I'm coming out to shout about this, trust me, I've been warned several by people.
Not to talk about match fixing.
Match fixing. I'm like, you know what? I have made a stand that I have to fight for our game. I have to fight for City Stars. And why am I doing this? Last season, and I have to mention this, David, is that there's no federation. All the referees who had been suspended for suspicious officiating or being suspected for manipulating matches, all the referees who were suspended were unsuspended and they got back to the game. And guess what? Oh, they're like, sasa kina Bari hata wako. Sasa ile kitu tulikuwa tunafanya, sasa ndio tutafanya vizuri. You see? So, games were being fixed live. And guess what? My boss, over time, he's not a football guy, but over time he's come to understand football. So he can tell you that's a foul, that's a penalty, that should be a red card. But towards the end of last season, he just said, you know what? I am convinced that games are being fixed. Because 2 games he came to watch, he said, you know what? We've lost because those games have been fixed. And he told me categorically that Sam and Patrick, unless you have a sponsor, this season, I'm giving you 0 money. So we just fold the team, disband it. Let me take that money elsewhere. Now that's where I'm coming from.
How much does he put in the team per
We're
year?
talking about 50, 60 million. Depending on how many games you win, we pay allowances. So it could be a cool 60 million.
David,
So
60
David,
million.
imagine. So
Yeah,
6.
good money.
You
Good money by
can do
Kenyan
something
standards. Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
totally different
A lot.
with that money.
I know of people who would marry another wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so now, David,
Yes.
I want to now bring it home. Jonathan Jackson is spending 60 million
Yeah.
at City Stars
Yeah.
per season.
With no profit.
0
Yeah, returns.
0.
So
Elijah.
the only way you
Elijah,
make money here
it
is
0.
you only sell a player.
If you get to sell a player.
And how many players do you get to sell in the
And
local league?
that's probably once in 5 years.
Yes.
So 0 returns, 60 meter, you're putting it clean, gone. Gone. Allowances, paying for the pitch ambulance, all those things, buying kit and DTC balls. So 60 meter, this is one club. Now imagine you've spent all that money and you come and watch a game
Yeah.
and you end up losing and you're asking yourself, why am I putting this money in this game? Now that's one club. Let's now multiply that by, let's call it
18.
the 18 clubs in the top league. So there are corporates who are putting in a lot more than 60 million. There are clubs I know who do twice, others do thrice that amount. Now you put in all that money, you're chasing the title, you never get the title. So you'll ask yourself in the boardroom,
Yeah.
why are we putting this money
Yeah,
in this
it's
game?
not worth it.
Why don't we move this money to marketing or to a smaller sport?
Yes.
Maybe like basketball or handball. You'll ask yourself those questions. So if we don't stem this vice, it means the investors in the game will take off. Jonathan will run away. He'll take that money elsewhere. Yeah, we do basketball courts. A basketball court, a good one, is about 4 million. And every time we talk about football, it's like, I don't know why I'm putting money in this game. I know that the games are being fixed. I may as well take that money to basketball. Do you know how many courts I will do in a year?
15 more.
Yeah. I will do 20 courts. So you see how easily the game can lose money.
Yes.
Yeah. So now,
And employment opportunities
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
So I've got 30 players. I've got 8 members in the technical bench. If I count myself as a CEO and Sam, we're talking about 40. How many families are we feeding?
Yeah.
Alone, when I consider how much when I consider how many people depend on me,
I know.
we're
Can
talking
imagine.
of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus your extended people.
Yes.
Yeah, because you never fail to support
Of
this
course,
other person.
of course.
So if you multiply that, and you're talking about 500 players in the league, we're talking plus officials, maybe another 200. Now think about the effect of all these guys losing a livelihood because of a vice, where sponsors pull out their cash, they pull out the investment in the game. Now, are you seeing where the bigger problem is?
Yes.
So when you call me here, Elijah, I have to drop everything I'm doing to come
Mhm,
here so that we talk about this, so that people see the bigger picture
Yeah.
of why we need to talk about this, why we need to all pull together and push for the vice to leave our game, push the National Assembly Committee to enact laws that can be used so that when someone is arrested for match manipulation,
Yeah.
they're locked up and they leave our game to be clean.
True.
To save investments of Jonathan and other
And
corporates
many
and
other
sponsors. Yeah.
One thing I'd probably skipped my mind earlier on is when I probably wind up is this Russian, this Ugandan, this Kenyan who approached Festo to approach City Stars.
Yeah.
They're willing to spend $14,000 up to $40,000. What is in it for them? What do they gain? How do they make their money back by putting $14,000 in City Stars? How are they going to?
Now,
Yeah.
this is my understanding, because I've tried to do some research, is that, and I'll give you an example. When we were playing police at Annex at 1, at 11:54, I get a prompt from someone. Are you the CEO of the club or the owner? I'm like, I'm the CEO. It's like, okay, I own a betting farm in Turkey. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, I'm looking to work with you. I'm like, okay, fine, shoot. Exactly what do you want? And he tells me, you're playing police at 1. I'm like, yes. He's like, I am willing to put your game in my platform. So I asked again, please explain. What does that even mean? And he says, we want to activate the game. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. It's later that it hit me where this girl was heading, because I've heard of stories about Turkish guys who own betting farms looking for clubs. So it hit me that, hey, I must be talking to a match fixer. And I quickly told the guy, you know what, I'm busy. Talk to me after the game. And I think that lost him for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came back again and said, oh, you know, there's a lot of money to be made. So we can make sure that you get something good. So I asked the guy, how? So he tells me, if you know the result of the game, so allow us to put that game in our platform. Now, later I read about it. What that meant is that out there, the betting firms that are not licensed. So what they do is that they activate games and they have funny odds.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be an odd of, say, City Stars to beat Police because we're in relegation, we're doing badly, we're not winning games, would probably be 10. So what happens out there, especially in Asia, is that someone puts in $1 million. You see, with those odds,
$1 million.
so it's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, what I've come to learn, and it's something that I revisited all my notes when I'm trying to capture activities in our game, like corners, throw-ins, yellow cards, and etc., is that none of our games has ever started at 3, other than our game against Homeboys very recently. Our game started at 15:02, 15:03. So apparently that delay is part of the plan.
So that
You'll be shocked. So
This
that
is complex.
So that difference in time, something out there happens because people are doing live betting. So you put in $1 million and you're told at a certain time there's an activity that's going to happen. So there's a communication between here and there. So that delay in kickoff is what is used, that latency is what is used for live betting, and that's how people make money. So you say at a certain time, City Stars will concede. Because what's happening here, City Stars have actually conceded. So you see the live betting. So it's really complex, by the way. It's really complex.
and it's a big
So
cartel.
that's where people make money.
So that's
So
how,
here's $14,000. Haya ni watu wa mkono. But now the real guys with money are putting in millions of dollars. So you can imagine if the odds are 10 and you've put in $1 million. What are you taking home?
$10 million.
$10 million.
So that's why they can afford to spend 14,000.
What I'm taking home from here, and I want to hear it from you, is that match fixing, betting, same WhatsApp group.
Slightly
I'd like to
connected.
separate. There's a way they're connected. However, when it comes to match manipulation, we're talking about unlicensed betting farms.
Yes.
And there's so many of them out there.
Okay.
Now, someone asked me, so it means that if the odds reads what for City Stars here, and then you guys go and play a part of it, you make so much money. I'm like, no. Betting is just betting.
Yes.
It's in platforms out there. I have nothing to do with it. I have no direct connection with it. So the odds would read, so it depends with a lot. Head to head going backwards between these two teams, your current form, which player is playing, which one is injured, So it dictates the odds of the day. So it's just betting. It's just, odds of 2 point what versus 1 point something, or if it's a draw, it's whatever it is. That's just betting.
Yeah.
So you place money and then you gain or you lose based on how much money you've put in. So that's different. Match manipulation is a lot more complex. And that's why we're talking about not happening here per se with the betting firms here. It is out there. And most of it is in Asia. Yeah.
Okay.
Raj Perumal.
Yes. Like in your Raj Perumals.
Yeah.
That's how they come in.
He mentioned one of our games back in the 2010, I think.
Kenya, Nigeria.
Nigeria World Cup qualifiers.
Bafemi Martins and some funny goals we conceded.
Oh yes, I remember that
Yeah,
expose.
I remember that one.
He'd promised to be given the business of preparing for Nigeria's preparations for the World Cup.
Yes.
If Kenya lost, because a Nigeria win meant Nigeria qualifies for the World
Exactly.
Cup. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, so you can imagine if Nigeria qualified, the kind of money he would have made at the World Cup and the kind of manipulation that he would have done at a huge stage such as the World Cup.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it several times with African countries even in the 2014 World Cup, some of the results, some of the incidences that were happening. I can remember Cameroon. I mean, it's just crazy.
It's
things
really,
just don't happen. Things are made to happen.
Things are made to happen. It's really crazy. So I recall back in May 2019, I'm at Camp Toyoyo and we're playing St. Joseph's. And St. Joseph have just arrived in a Nissan. 13 players plus the coach. No, I think they arrived 12 plus the coach, 2 coaches. And someone who was standing on the other side of the pitch walks all the way around to me and tells me, hey, by the way, hii game, nasikia mta lose 3-2.
A random person.
A random guy. I have no idea about match fixing. I have never even heard of it. I can't even quite comprehend. And I'm like, there's no way. St. Joseph's. Sino jaribu kusurvive relegation.
Umekuja na
Hapa,
niso.
hii game.
Now we go to 12 instead of 18 at least.
And by they just arrived. They didn't even warm up. Because the warm up time, we are looking at the gates. They haven't arrived. It's going to 2:30, 2:40 is when they are lighting. You're like, hakuna. Haiwezi happen. So, and the game, our players win it, it's 5K. We are new to the team because we just got into the team in April. So the incentive of a win, 5K, is new. Who didn't want 5K?
Yeah.
So we're like, there's no way. Circumstances, there's no way. Elijah, guess what? 3rd minute, we are down 1 goal. 5th minute, we are down 2. 13th minute, 2-1. Another 2 minutes later, it's 2-2. So this guy told me, you will lose the game 3-2 and there'll be a red card. I told the guy, you go away. Guess what? 2nd half. The defender of St. Joseph has clipped one of our guys. He gets a 2nd yellow, red card. Some along the way, 25th minute, they scored their 3rd goal. So it's 3-2. So it's gone into it's gone as planned. 2nd half, there's a red card. And guess what, David? We lost that game 3-2. So the guy tells me, I told you. I'm like, where kwenda bana? Hapa mistake defender amemake nini? Later, I think a year and a half later,
It's not adding
is
up.
when now when I reflected, and I'm hearing all these stories about match fixing, is when I sit and I'm like, wait a minute. This guy actually told me,
Yeah.
but I dismissed that guy. But everything that he said, now why am I saying that? It's in the NSL. And I can tell you, we're talking about the Premier League, where most teams will live stream, City Stars will record, plus a few other teams. Now we're talking about the NSL.
Where there are not
Where
much
there is no
resources.
recording,
Yeah.
no one is even interested in those games. You just sit here and just wait. Shabana wametokaje? Now, there's no attention in the lower leagues.
Yes.
Now, I'm told that the madness that goes on is shocking. So we're talking about match fixing in a very visible top-tier league. And I can imagine what happens in the lower leagues.
Yeah.
And that is 2019.
That was 2019.
We're 2023.
In 2023. So the madness that happens in the lower leagues,
Yeah.
David, is shocking.
I can imagine.
So whatever we're talking about in the Premier League must be multiplicated by 10, 20 times in the lower leagues.
Wow.
That's how bad this thing is.
Yeah.
I thought I had understood this.
Yeah.
I actually thought I had grasped everything and understood how it works, but the magnitude is just crazy.
Yes, I have learnt a lot. I think the problem is bigger than I initially thought. I normally refer to it as a cancer because it appears to be growing rather than being curtailed. And something really needs to be done, I hope, because I heard the Football Kenya Federation president in Parliament the other day reiterating your remarks that there needs to be a law to be put in place, probably to scare away most of these people who are coming and getting away with all these vices that is destroying the game, destroying our youth, and destroying the development of the game as well, which is very important. I'm just speechless. We
want to qualify for the 2030 World Cup, but with this, we can't. We can't.
Yeah, but it's a combined effort, as Patrick puts it. Even as we wind up, it's a combined effort because football administrators also have to play their part. They have to take care of their staff well, because not very many teams take care of their players that well. There's a problem on that. We really have to address it, because there's a link between that and the match fixing, because referees as well have to be I'm happy with what you're telling me the federation is doing about the integrity stuff. Players have to sign that document so that when you're found culpable, you have nowhere to run to. The authorities as well, the interest they have in it is also welcoming. So it's a collective effort. The media really has to highlight this completely, because I believe it's because of the media highlighting that expose that FIFA and FIFPro came in.
Yes.
So it's a collective effort to kick match fixing out of Kenyan football. And believe you me, kicking match fixing out of Kenyan football is for the better of Kenya.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because the media, of course, there are journalists who cover the games.
Yes.
If there's no football, some guys are going to lose jobs.
A lot of people are going to lose jobs, and players. I made this appeal some time back, and I'll make it again. Players who believe, footballers who believe they have something to tell the media, you can tell the media. The media is allowed by law to hide their sources.
Exactly.
But they can reveal whatever. So anything you have with evidence, approach the media, approach your football administrator, have the trust in them. It's a bit tricky because probably some football administrators are involved in the vice. So if you believe that you might not get a lot of justice where you're going, you can approach the media, approach the authorities. Let's see how it goes. And probably next year around this time, let's talk about this in a different dimension completely. Let's talk about the gains we've made to kick match fixing out of Kenyan football, because these are horrific stories about investors pulling out. That's not what we would like to hear, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Last question, yes or no question. Criminalize match fixing or not?
Of course, yes. Must be. It must be done.
Yes.
Tell us, do you want match fixing to be criminalized? Should it be criminalized after hearing what we have just heard from the CEO of Nairobi City Stars? Patrick Korir, thank you very much for coming here to shed more light on this monster, this cancer. It certainly is in stage 4 for sure.
Yeah.
The Kenyan football is on its deathbed, but we have to fight and keep on talking about match fixing and highlighting this issue, and hopefully things will change. Well, thank you very much for listening to the Hit Podcast. I've been your host, Elijah Ouko. Remember, you can follow us on our social media handles, Elijah_Ouko on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, and Elijah Ouko on Facebook. Kolimo
At Kwalimo David on Twitter.
And of course, don't forget to follow Nairobi City Stars.
Yes. And hope you survive relegation.
We'll survive.
Amen.
All right. See you next time, same place, right here on ntvkenya.co.ke. Remember to follow us also on our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also on TikTok. Well, see you next time. Thank you very much for listening to us, and enjoy the rest of your week.